For the third time since starting this channel, I need to make a bridesmaid dress. My second ever sewing project on here, and my first time sewing a garment for myself from a pattern, was this soft green bridesmaid dress for a younger sister's wedding. A while later, I made this voluminously swooshy, deep-pocketed rose pink bridesmaid dress for an older sister's wedding, and ended up carrying everyone's phones during the ceremony. Pockets! This time around, it is my partner Matt's family who's making the call. His brother is getting married, and we're both in the wedding party, so bridesmaid dress, round 3. Y'all, that's just 3 on this channel. You don't even want to know my life total. I have a lot of sisters. The ladies have been tasked with acquiring long dresses in specific colors. Mine is this orchid pink, only lightly different than what I'm currently wearing. And we have been told to go all out. Be stunning, achieve glamour. Of course, I am going to be making my dress myself, but I don't really have any ideas. Words that I do not say very frequently. I mean, I have dress ideas, I just don't know if they will work for this occasion, or if I can accomplish them, or if I should risk trying to accomplish them for this occasion, you know? So considering the color is pretty specific, I'm gonna start by finding a fabric and let the fabric inform my design. Let's go to mood. Very privileged to live within driving distance of a whole fashion district here in LA, which is why I was comfortable waiting until 6 weeks before the wedding to start this dress. But also, the fashion district kind of scares me. It's not my preferred style of shopping. So we are gonna find what we need at Mood today. Period. We must. Cause Michaels plus Joanne sure as heck isn't a real option anymore. I was debating between a silk georgette that was $25 a yard versus like a regular old polyester chiffon at $6 a yard. Debating, back and forth, cause I kinda wanna get a lot of it. I don't fully know how much I'm gonna need, but probably a lot. And then I had to acknowledge that this is a bridesmaid dress. Like, will I ever wear it again? I hope so, but also, it's never gonna get a ton of wear, and I just cannot justify spending silk prices on it. Chiffon it is. So I kinda lied to myself and therefore to you. I do have a design for this dress. I think I was just hoping that some other fabric in the proper color would jump out at me and give me an idea for a different design. Is this because I don't really want to make the design that I came up with? No, I do want to make it. I think I'm also just like a little bit intimidated by making it. But let's be real, that's the design we're going with. I'll draw it for you poorly in a second. Oh, it's pink. Hello. This fabric has like a bit of texture to it. It's got lines stitched into it, which is what I wanted. I kept looking around and like, I'm not much of a satin or a taffeta person. I don't super duper love those textures on me. So I was looking for something that just, I don't know, was a little bit different. And this is it. I got 5 yards of this, which is probably way more than I need because this is kind of just the bodice of the dress. And then, as I said, I went with the chiffon because $25 a yard. And I got 9 yards of that, because that's gonna be the bulk of the skirt. I got an invisible zipper that I probably will not use. I got some boning that, I mean, I'm gonna need boning, but I have some others, like, I don't know. Will I use zip ties in the end? Who's to say? I got 4 spools of thread to match because I do not want to run out. And I got some embroidery floss for totally unrelated reasons. So altogether, this came to $165, which is more than I usually spend on one dress, but is not really more than you would spend on an actual formal dress, you know? It's kind of less, depending on what level of fanciness you want to go for. And also, I don't think I'm gonna need all this fabric. I just like to be very, very safe because I don't want to have to drive back to Mood. So, let's talk design. Hold on, wait, before we get into it, allow me a moment to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Ultima Replenisher. When you're diving into an intense project, one of those long haul makes that has you crawling around on the ground and questioning all your life choices, spoiler I guess for what's coming up in this video, you want to be maintaining some good daily habits to keep you going, like staying hydrated. If you're one of those people who hates the taste of water or just struggles to drink enough every day, then a flavored beverage that helps replenish those dwindling electrolytes can be super helpful. But for those of us not doing intense workouts, the sugar and sodium levels in a lot of those drinks and powders can be a bit unnecessarily high. Ultima Replenisher has 0 sugar, low sodium, and uses plant-based flavors and colors to help you replenish the 6 key electrolytes your body needs. It's super easy to toss a pack into your water, shake it up, and have a delicious, refreshing drink. They've got a great variety of flavors too, from lemon and raspberry to strawberry acai green tea. Ooh! Head to the link in the description below to stay hydrated with Ultima Replenisher and use my code TheStitchery20 at checkout to get 20% off your order. A big thank you to Ultima Replenisher for sponsoring this video, and now let's talk design. Remember my 18 panel custom fitted dress that I made last year, I think? This whole design is based off of that. So I'm not starting from nothing. I'm not having to start from square one. I'm on like square 2.5. I don't want it to be strapless. Oh my God, no. Not at a wedding. That is not something I want to have to deal with. I'm hoping for a nice, not square, but not scoop, but one of those like halfway between necklines. Ugh. The fact that I'm looking at this from the side doesn't help my drawing skills. You're also so far away. Come closer. So, basically just that as the bodice, but it'll be the 18 panel thing. So, you know, it's got like all of these lines in it and boning. At the bottom though, we are going to embrace godets. That's what the chiffon-y material's for. Oh, this is gonna be hard to draw. I think you're gonna have to just trust me, because that's a pretty terrible representation. The idea is that the godets go in between each of those panels. So we have 18 panels. That means, I think, 18 godets, or it possibly means 17. I hate that part of math. And I want them to change height. So like on one side of the dress, the godets start all the way up here, and then on the other side of the dress, they start down here. Yeah, I think that's about as well as I can explain it. I am not starting this today. I went to Mood because it was convenient with my schedule, but I have other stuff to do for who knows how long. So let's cut to an unknown number of days later. Okay, let's do this. I got out the microphone just to say that. Get ready to clutch your pearls, ladies and gentlemen, because we're making a mock-up. Merciful heavens. I'm pretty sure there's also going to be oodles of pressing and a whole truckload of hand stitching in the course of this project, but then who's to say? This isn't me post-project with full hindsight in tow. I'm currently just as much in the dark as you are. Seriously, I'm recording voiceover in the dark. That's the opening, not the actual split. So maybe I can roll with mine. Begging the question, is it 10 inches from the shortest split or from the longest split? Why am I choosing to do this? Why not, right? Why not? I don't know if this is enough fabric. But see, that doesn't make sense to me. Plus 12 above on. I think 3, 6, and 7 to be safe. This is definitely not enough fabric. Let's go get more fabric. This is literally like the exact same type of fabric. Perfect! If you're wondering why it is that I felt I needed way more mock-up fabric, it's because over the years of my sewing journey, I've kind of connected more with draping than with pattern making, which means even when I'm kinda pattern making, I'm also kinda draping. In other words, I'm making this mock-up with lots of extra fabric all over the place, and then trimming it down to the pieces that I want, rather than figuring out the pieces I want right from the start. This is the way my brain jives with a complicated design. There's this ancient technique of haute couture, the kind of basic but essential stuff they teach you on day 1 of fashion school. I assume. I've never actually been. It's ye old, futz around and find out, which you can observe being put into practice here.
I'm gonna go to Best Buy real fast.
Alright.
Is there anything you want from there?
From Best Buy?
What's this?
It's a grommet puncher.
Oh yeah, I remember when you got this.
Yeah.
You don't want anything from Best Buy?
Not that I know of.
Oh, your loss.
Should I want something from Best Buy?
No, that's why I would have.
Bonus points if your partner jets off to Best Buy for mysterious, likely gaming-related reasons, leaving you to lace yourself into your rapidly disintegrated mock-up all alone. It's fine, I've been meaning to use up that bucket of patience before it went bad anyway. At a certain point, the ratio of futzing around to finding out skyrockets to something like 478 to 1, and that's when you know you should go eat dinner and come back to this tomorrow. Or even the day after tomorrow. Okay. All of that futzing around was just for the top part of the dress, for like the straps and the neckline. We haven't even touched the whole crazy hemline of this bodice yet, and I'm already feeling like I'm gonna need a second mock-up, which would be unprecedented in the life of this channel, and my life in general. But here's the dealio. Each of these panels needs to triangulate at some point. It needs to come down to a point, but it's gonna be higher on one side or lower on one side, depending on the panel that it's attached to. So the top of the V won't have a nice little even top like this. It'll be like this or like this, yeah? Does that make sense? It's okay if it doesn't, because you're not making the dress. So I marked where I want the shortest one to start triangulating and where I want the longest one to start triangulating on the front, and then I have to figure that out to replicate it on the back. So I'm definitely gonna have to cut all of these down and then make a second mock-up. Let's just cut to that. Yeah, this is already taking so long. Second mock-up. Well, that was an all-day process. Every single panel, which there are 17 now. I call it the 18 panel dress, but the center back one is like 2 panels, and I got rid of that whole thing because I was gonna do lace up, although I just stuck a zipper in the back of this one, and it's making me think maybe I should just go with a zipper because I have straps to support it now, which is why I got the invisible zipper, because I still wasn't entirely sure. Anyway, all 17 panels are different because of this bottom here, so I had to pattern each one separately, and they're still not right. I just choked on the word right. They're still not right. There are still problems with the straps that I need to fix. There's gaping here, but it's a little hard to tell if that's gonna be there. I was originally thinking, maybe I should just do this. Right now, there's a 1/2 inch of seam allowance around this and around this, which makes it a little hard to tell what it's gonna look like in the end, because these straps are gonna be so much thinner, right? And that might take away some of that gaping there. So I think maybe I should just take it off, mark that 1/2 inch, and cut it off. I'm not really sure why I put it there in the first place, other than to potentially save time, because I'll need it for the actual one. It's not bad though. It's not bad. I keep like not being excited when it's actually not that bad. And I think it's because every step of this process is just so tedious. I literally had to pause in between like labeling everything, ripping it apart, drawing them all onto paper, cutting out the paper, cutting out the fabric again. I kept pausing between every single step to just like stare at my phone or something because it's so boring. I think this is why I prefer just doing like simple sewing experiments, because it's like, oh god, this is tedious. But let me try to fix the shoulders and then cut off that seam allowance, and that might make this top part okay. The bottom part, like, yeah, in theory it's okay. Are you starting to get the picture of what's gonna happen here? Like, godet in between each one of these. I also have to think about pockets. I can't right now. The weird thing here is I'm bad with triangle points, which like, great, you've given yourself a bazillion of them, but where the pieces meet up, I have to figure out how you're supposed to do that point. Yeah, like seam allowance and V-shapes are a problem when you combine them. They're a problem. Okay, that is shoulders fixed, seam allowance cut off. So that's a more accurate representation of what the top will look like. I still think there's some issues right here. Like this piece needs to be more like that. Same kind of thing is sort of happening in the back, although it's one of those things where like when you move your arm, you can fill it up sometimes, and so it begs the question, should you get rid of that? Or is that necessary for movement? Should your garment fit you when you are standing straight and tall with perfect posture? Or should it fit you when you move around? I don't know. Okay, so it should be more like that. No, stay in there, pen. Which means I need to make some alterations on some of the pattern pieces. But which ones? I mean, I know which ones. I feel like this is about the most of this that my brain can handle for today, but I also do feel like we don't need a third mock-up, especially because I got 5 yards of the bodice fabric, and like now that I have the actual proper size pattern pieces, this does not take that much. I'm doing both the lining and the outer in the same fabric, and I feel pretty safe to cut out the first round, the lining. And if like one panel needs to be recut or something, I think I have plenty of fabric for that. But again, not today. Whew, definitely not today. Oh my god, I finally figured it out. Math! And then that'll throw off this whole thing, because that'll then have to be even, and I want that one to be even, so this one needs to have. Oh my god, okay. It's all starting to make sense. Kind of. This project brought up a lot of interesting thoughts and feelings for me, which I'll maybe go into further in a future video, but it's worth exploring them a little bit right now. I mean, this isn't really new. I've been having complicated feelings about sewing for over a year now, I'd say. You may have noticed that most, or all, I think, of my sewing projects this year have been fairly simple, or back to the basics in style. Here we go, kids. There's a part of me that tends to assume I'm at the stage in my sewing journey where in order to continue forward, to continue growing and learning more, I need to be taking on more complex and complicated projects. I need to be trying more difficult designs and focusing on more elaborate finishings. Isn't that how progress works? Isn't that how learning works? The work you're doing must continually be more difficult and more complex, or you'll end up flatlining in your growth, potentially even sloping downward or stepping backward. The reason that's only a part of me is because another part of me thinks that's a bunch of baloney. I don't know that you ever reach a point in any form of study where you can no longer learn things from more basic levels. There's always more to learn from the basics. Additionally, you don't have to take every form of study into ever higher reaches of complexity in order to get better or more knowledgeable in that field, right? You also don't have to get better or more knowledgeable in a field in order to hold on to the experience and knowledge you currently have. I think this can get especially confusing with garment sewing because complex garments are not necessarily functional or super useful garments. When I think of a complex design with precise finishes, it's things like evening gowns, art pieces, and perfectly tailored suits that come to mind. But I don't have much reason to wear garments of that type, and therefore I don't personally have much reason to create them. But I like you anyway. I mean, obviously in this instance, I do have a reason to both create and wear the dress that I'm currently creating, but you know what I mean. I have been in a ridiculous number of weddings, but I still wouldn't call them like a frequent life event. Oh. An added difficulty for my processing here is that I do have a plethora of complicated designs in mind, or on paper, that I'd, in theory, like to try creating. In theory. Because in practice, I'm finding more and more that I don't love the actual process. Am I capable of these supposed higher levels of design, of garment construction, of sewing itself? Am I capable of stretching my abilities into new heights? Of course I am. I pretty strongly believe that I'm capable of anything. But is that what I want? Is that what brings me joy? Is that what feeds my passion? I don't think so. Maybe it does a little, or sometimes, or maybe it will more in the future. I'm so open to changing and evolving many more times throughout my life. But at the moment, I had way more fun turning a bunch of simple rectangles into swooshy dresses than I did precisely patterning out 17 different bodice panels. I like being varied in my abilities, and that applies to garment sewing. I like being able to take on projects both simple and complex. But this particular experience has definitely taught me not to prioritize the fancy designs over the basic ones. 'Cause y'all, did I mention the tedium? Oh, good lord, the tedium. Pocket. Well, this took absolute ages. These are also the times when I most want a serger, which seems weird because I didn't technically need one because it's lined, but the longer I worked with this, the more all of the edges are shedding, and they're all gonna be tucked inside eventually, but even here, like, these are all shedding so much, and that's so stressful to me. I don't know why, but fraying fabric on the edges is extremely stress-inducing for me. So if I had a serger, I would absolutely serge every single one of these pieces before I started sewing it together, just to eliminate that. But y'all, there's a pocket. Where'd it go? It's there. Look, phone-holding pocket. It's big enough, it's supportive enough. Huzzah! I might try to put a pocket in this other side as well. I might not. There are still so many things with the skirt of this dress that I have to figure out. Like, in theory, it doesn't sound too bad because it's just some big triangles, but then, like, those triangles have to be French seamed together, but then sewn to a lining. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to hand stitch the entire inside lining down, which is fine. I have to figure out the zipper because the zipper extends past the edge of the bodice here, which means it has to go into one of the godets, I guess? Yay? Yeah. I'm gonna take a little break on this because we're still fairly solid on time. I've still got like a month before we leave for Brazil. I'm gonna allow myself to go like do another project for a few days and then come back to the skirt. I need a break. I need it. An unknown number of days. Again. That was a really good break. Let's make a skirt.
So 8 times 68 is still way more than what I have. If that whole thing is 35, then we only need 70, and that's still too much. In this case, we are dividing, which is what? I mean, that's not bad. But they don't need to be 60 inches tall. Does it matter? No. How would you do that? That's an almost 54-foot hemline. Is that not enough? Are you not satisfied with a 54-foot hemline? I mean, come on. Although not really. That's the difference. Ooh. Ah, fuck. And now it starts to get really problematic. But a 10-inch difference makes quite a bit of difference.
After all those attempts at math, I ended up going with the method, there's so much chiffon it doesn't really matter, in which you use a lot of guesstimating to get somewhat similar sized godets rather than going absolutely insane aiming for all perfectly matching. For starters, I cut one single godet but in 2 halves because this is for the zipper in the back, and then I didn't film putting that in at all because I was rather stressed about it. Turned out to not be as difficult as I was assuming it would be. It went in fine, no glaring issues. Then began the ever shiftier business of getting 16 more triangles of chiffon out of this hunk of slippery material. Hey, guess what word I would use to describe that process? Okay, so I got my first normal godets in here. Ta-da! So many more to go. It is kind of just the same thing over and over and over again now. And like, it's really finicky. This definitely would have been easier to do before the lining was in and attached, but like there was no way I wasn't totally finishing the bodice before doing this. So finicky, yes. It's not necessarily hard. I have completely abandoned any idea of putting a pocket on this side. I've got one pocket. It'll hold all my necessities. Necessities? That is plenty. So now we are just rinsing and repeating. Woohoo! In order to really focus on this, we're just gonna skip to it being done. We have a dress! Huzzah! The skirt is so long. I decided to add a slit. Decided. Is it because I miscalculated and only cut out 16 godets instead of 17? Of course it is! I wouldn't normally do like a high slit in a bridesmaid dress, but the skirt is so full, I don't think you'll be able to see it unless I like choose to make you see it. See, I can't even find it when I want to. Yeah, I think when we're just standing there for the ceremony, it won't even look like there is one. That means we have basically 2 more steps to complete this, both very long and slow steps. Are we surprised? That's been every single step of this whole process. I need to hand sew the entire lining around this whole thing. I'm not even going to consider how I could possibly do it with a machine. I don't want stitch lines on the front. It's gonna be hand sewn down all the way around. And then we gotta hem this baby, which like, it's a lot of hemline. I don't know how long it ended up being, but probably about 50 feet. But I feel much better about this now because neither of those things should present any problems or challenges. They should just be things that I have to do and accomplish over a couple days. Of course, because I believed problems were at last a thing of the past on this make, problems came sneaking up behind me, giggling maniacally. I spent 5 hours stitching down about a third of the lining, and then wisely thought to myself, hey, I should probably try this on and make sure I'm not doing it all wrong. I was doing it all wrong. The lining wasn't perfectly lined up with the outer layer. It was probably off by like a millimeter or two, but that was enough for there to be visible wrinkles at the V-points, and no matter how much I futzed around in it, it just looked bad. So I proceeded to have a tiny mental breakdown over a basket of endless breadsticks, slept away my disgust with this dress, and now I'm gonna fix it. 'Cause what do? We fix things and finish them, even when we want to set them on fire. I ended up ripping out all of my 5 hours of work and then adding 2 panels to the split. They aren't a full godet because I only have scraps left, but they're each like 1/4 of a godet, and they will fill in that bodice line in a way that I think will fall much better. I then machine hemmed the entire edge of the lining before hand stitching the seam allowance of the entire bodice to the inside, just going through the back threads of the fabric so that it won't show on the front. Instead of fully attaching the lining to the outer layer, I whip stitched it closed along the slit and then tacked each triangle point together so it'll basically lay where it's supposed to without causing outer wrinkles from millimeters of non-alignment. I had to get a few pictures of the hem unrealistically long, 'cause of course, the drama, and then 'twas time to settle in for several hours of rolled hem fun. And y'all, finally, it's time for the final product. I do not love this dress. And I don't say that because I'm being too hard on myself or I'm fishing for compliments or anything. You don't need to reassure me that it's a good dress. I know it's a good dress. I think the design is interesting. I think it fits me well. I think it looks good on me. I think it's pretty dang well made for what my capabilities are right now. I just don't like it all that much. And I think that's okay. Like, sometimes when we do a project, we learn new stuff about the skill or the technique, and sometimes we learn new stuff about ourselves, and I'm okay with both of those things. This was a self-learning kind of project. I'm really glad that I stuck with it and that I finished it, especially because I do specifically need it, and I'm also really glad that it's comfortable, and it's swooshy, and it has a pocket, all the things that I want out of a formal gown that I'm gonna have to wear for like half a day. But I just did not enjoy this process. Every step of it was so tedious to me. And here's the kicker. Slow does not equal tedious. Fur in my mouth. Wood carving is slow. Hand applique is slow. I do so many slow crafts, and I have so much fun doing them. I think when something feels tedious rather than just slow, that's a sign that it's just not something that you enjoy doing, and that's totally okay. We don't have to enjoy every single type of making and creating. That doesn't mean that I will never make a formal dress again. I absolutely will. It definitely doesn't mean that I'm sick of sewing on the whole. I'm absolutely not. I can just very specifically see that elevating this craft in this way, like aiming for more complex couture designs with that level of finishing, is not the thing that's going to bring me great joy. And that is a lesson that I'm happy to learn about myself. And now, if you will excuse me, I have never deserved a hooray you finished a project reward puzzle more than I do right now. Puzzles! By all means, move at a glacial pace. Hot couture, couture, couture. Your butt is so cute. Oh good, banging. I can't use the footage when you're stomping past anyway. That was a really good break. There's a puppy. Hello! Have I summoned you? By speaking? Ooh, good stretch. Farts.